Well, let's ask Mike Babcock of HailVarsity.com about that. He now joins us. Mike, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great here. Great time of year.
Oh, yes, it is. 10 days away from BYU at Nebraska. A lot of hype and excitement going into this one. What's life like right now in Lincoln as you prepare for the season opener under a brand-new head coach, Mike Riley?
Well, there's a lot of enthusiasm, obviously, and I've done this for a long time. I think this will be my 38th season of covering Nebraska football, so it's kind of it's redundant to some extent. You know, there's always optimism going into the season. Everybody's enthusiastic about the opportunity that Nebraska has, and I think that Mike Riley, his personality has generated enhanced that enthusiasm. I guess he's much more accessible than Bo Pelini was at the end of his tenure as coach, and so it's Nebraska nice. Mike Riley, he's just a nice guy, but I tell people. He coached. He was a head coach in the National Football League. He won a couple of Grey Cups in the Canadian Football League. I mean, he didn't get there by being a nice guy when things aren't done the right way. And so he's a very intense competitor, and I think it'll be interesting to see how this team performs. But there's always that transition, with a new staff, learning a new system, and how quickly can Nebraska adapt to that new system.
Mike, where have you seen Coach Riley's impact the most so far through fall camp?
Well, I think he's related to the players pretty well, and obviously he's related to the fan base and former players, and that's one of the things. We've had some access to practice, been able to go out and watch some of the practices in fall camp. And to see the former players that come out on a consistent basis, that's always pretty cool, especially for an old guy like me. I'm seeing now the sons of guys that played at Nebraska that I covered as well. But I just think it's that energy and that enthusiasm that he exudes. And, that's a thing. He's very open with the media, which in this day and age, at Nebraska, you're going to see 36 reporters out there or media representatives on any given day, and makes it a little difficult for the coach to know everybody and how things are going to respond. But he's been very open with the media, very straightforward. So that's been a positive as well. It's just everything is positive at this point.
Mike, do Cornhusker fans think Mike Riley is a better coach than Bo Pelini?
I don't know. I don't know if I have that sense or not. Bo, his personality created some situations that were uncomfortable for people, and I think that it's more of a personality thing, a change in personality. I think that people had respect for what Bo did, especially, he was a defensive coach, and I've always felt like, that he'd be a great defensive coordinator. Sometimes I'm not sure if he was really able to do some of the other things that a head coach has to do in terms of public relations and that sort of thing. But I don't know if that's the main change. That people are looking at it and saying we're getting a better X's and O's coach in charge of the program. I think it's more how he relates to people. That's the thing, and we've had a lot of talk. Maybe you were kind of talking about this talent, the talent and effort and so forth can beat talent. But if talent has that effort, that's been one of the themes since Riley's gotten here is that he's going to have better players and a better opportunity to recruit here than he did at Oregon State. So let's see how things go. Give him better players and a better recruiting situation, and see how that plays out. And he and his assistants have talked about that. But again, we a lot of enthusiasm because no games have been played yet.
And that's the interesting thing because you win 9 or 10 games the last 7 or 8 years. The standard's pretty high with Nebraska football if you can a guy. Because his personality doesn't mesh well, PR like you mentioned. So with Mike Riley, does he have to win at least 9 games this season?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if the leash is that short. I think the expectation is that's kind of the bottom line, that he'll win at least 9, and fans are enthusiastic. And I heard on a call-in show the other day, some fans suggested that Nebraska would probably win every regular season game except maybe Michigan State or Wisconsin, both of whom come to Lincoln and would be in the conversation for. There's that kind of. I don't believe that's going to happen, but there's that kind of mentality out there. Some people think that, but I really think that 9 is kind of the number. Part of it too was that Bo Pelini's teams won 9 games, but there were some really crushing defeats, really embarrassing defeats in there, and I think that's, people would look at it more. They would be more accepting, I guess, if it's if it ends up being a 9-4 season, if it's a competitive 4 losses and you get the 9 wins. But yeah, Nebraska fans have that high expectations, and Riley's walking into a situation where the expectations are going to be there for immediate success. And I don't know. Again, new coach, new system, how that transition goes. We'll see.
What happens if one of those losses comes from BYU in the home opener?
Well, I don't know how people will respond. Again, I think if it's competitive and for me, I appreciate the BYU and Nebraska in an opening game because Nebraska hasn't lost an opener since '85. I think Florida State came into Lincoln and won. But if you look at the teams that Nebraska's opened with in the last few seasons, I mean, Florida Atlantic, Southern Mississippi, Chattanooga, Western Michigan, Nevada, Louisiana Tech, Maine, Western Illinois. I mean, Nebraska BYU, that's a pretty cool opener, I think, given what we've seen in recent seasons. And I hope fans look at it that way as well, because I think it'll be a competitive game. And again, I think the expectation is probably among Husker fans they're going to win, but if they don't win, if they're competitive in the game, I think people, the majority of Husker fans, let's say that. And when you got 340 consecutive sellouts and capacity is a little over 90,000 now, they can get in there. It doesn't take very many people to be upset for it to seem like it's a movement. So, but I think the majority of Husker fans would accept a loss if Nebraska was competitive.
Mike Babcock of HailVarsity.com covering the Nebraska Cornhuskers is on BYU Sports Nation. There was a lot of discussion related to the different kind of offense that Mike Riley runs, more of a pro style. Correct me if I'm wrong. Has Tommy Armstrong found a middle ground as the guy still in a new offense?
Yeah, I think so. And one of the things that Riley said, we'll adapt. We'll try to adapt our system to what guys do well. That doesn't mean wholesale changes. And Danny Langsdorf, spent last season working with Eli Manning with the New York Giants. After having spent 12 seasons at Oregon State with Mike Riley, so I think they'll adjust. Tommy Armstrong can run fairly well, and one of the initial things that Langsdorf said to Tommy was, "You're not a runner," and he kind of said that in jest, but they don't want him, putting down his head and trying to get that extra 3 yards. I mean, they want him to slide or get out of bounds or do things wisely to try to protect him. But by the same token, they want to use his ability as a runner. So I think he's made the adjustment pretty well. It's kind of a funny thing because they huddle up now. They didn't do that in the past, and the guy said the first couple of practices, their coaches were yelling at him because the play would be over and they'd be looking where the ball was spotted instead of getting to the huddle or whatever. So it took a day or two for them to figure that out. But I think Tommy Armstrong has made the adjustment, and it's been pretty clear, I think, from the outset. There's been competition, but it was clear that he was going to be the quarterback.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, okay, Tommy Armstrong there. Last question. Amir Abdullah, how do you replace a guy like that?
Well, running back by committee, I think, is what it's going to be. And I think I saw a story not too long ago where that was the reference for BYU as well, committee of running backs. But no, I think Nebraska is probably going to. Nebraska, that's part of the issue here is trying to keep guys happy because Nebraska's got 5 guys right now and probably another one that's going to redshirt that could be in the mix there. And we're going to see. The coaches have said they're going to use those. They're going to try to rotate guys a little bit, but you know how that goes. I mean, somebody's probably not going to be happy, but it's going to have to be by committee. Nobody has stepped up and taken hold of that position. Terrell Newby, Amani Cross, Divina Zigbo, who's a true freshman, Mikhail Wilbon's a redshirt freshman, Adam Taylor. I mean, you could see any of those 5 guys in the game. They haven't settled on one in particular.
Well, we look forward to the matchup. Only 10 days away. I can't believe it. But, Mike, we appreciate the time.
Oh, look forward to seeing BYU in Lincoln.
It's going to be great. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.